to the best in Ghanaian entertainment on Akwaba Magic. Efie. Welcome home to Akwaba Magic on DSTV channel 150. It's your moment. DSTV.
Now in Ghana on Metro TV.
When you grow up, are you going to have a family?
Yes.
And are you going to have children?
Yes.
How many children will you have?
20.
Showing every Sunday evening. Prime time, 5 to 5:30 p.m. with a catch-up on Wednesdays, 4 to 4:30 p.m.
Kids always say what they wanna.
Metro TV. Insightful and inspiring moments. Metro TV. Insightful and inspiring moments.
Hello and welcome. I'm Francisca Kakra-Forson. On Good Afternoon Ghana today, I'm having a chat with the Director of Research for the opposition NDC. We will be discussing the EC's reaction to the NDC's counter-proposals for election reforms. We'll also look at the landmark ruling by the High Court concerning the Achimota School, ordering the school to admit the 2 Rastafarian boys who they had earlier denied admission. We'll also be discussing the incident involving the Finance Minister and the Minister for State at the Finance Ministry. This program is live on Facebook and YouTube. It's also live on Twitter. You can join the conversation. Just go to Metro TV Ghana on Facebook and YouTube. On Twitter, go to @MetroTVGH. You can also join the conversation on WhatsApp. A number will be displaying on your screen. Just send messages. Please do not call the number. Stay with us. When we return, we'll have the conversation.
We are one man short. Should we invite him?
Yeah.
It be old cargo.
Can I join you guys?
Yeah.
Our strength, fresh, natural, eggs, mineral, water.
You still got it. Always keep hydrated naturally. That's my secret.
Manufactured with the primary aim of preserving nature's finest minerals necessary for a healthy mind and body. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Lawful wedded wife to having to hold from this day forward. I do.
I knew it.
How much drama can you enjoy? See it feely with HD Plus. Get the best companion for your HD TV with HD Plus. Dial *879# to activate and enjoy the first 2 months for free.
Welcome back. My guest today is the Director of Research for the Opposition NDC, Alhaji Haruna Rashid Ibrahim. Alhaji, good afternoon to you and well day. Okay. But I'll start off with some reactions from the Electoral Commission. We had an interview with Dr. Eric Bosman. Okay. Proposed reforms, etc., to voting. So he had some responses. We're going to take a look at that, and then when we return, we'll begin our conversation. So watch this.
All right.
The NDC, they boycotted the IPAC meeting, citing many reasons, that the EC is not receptive to them. They said that they don't agree with the one-man, one-vote with political parties. They're looking for an equitable voting system where the two major parties will have more say than the minor political parties. They want IPAC to be given legal powers or to have a legal backing. How that will interfere with the powers of the EC is also another question. They've raised issues about the security or election security, and they talk about, of course, you've touched on that, rejected ballots and also arithmetic errors in terms of training staff, etc. What do you say to these concerns? Some of them legitimate.
Oh, let me say, you know, on this NDC, several issues you have raised. I know the media, you delight in some of these controversies, so let me also put
it's actually the last thing we're discussing.
That's what I'm saying, that the media delights in some of this. But let me say that IPAC is not compulsory. IPAC is Inter-Party Advisory Committee. Inter-Party Advisory. It's not in our laws. The Constitution, when you look at Article 45, it specifies the functions of the EC. 46 talks about the independence of the EC. 47, in that manner. IPAC is supposed to advise. It's an advisory forum where the EC will meet and discuss certain things. It's not compulsory. We have about 28 parties in our books, but most of the IPAC members who come, I think they are about 17 or 15. So it's not compulsory. But we understand that NDC is a major political party in our system. So we do expect that for every IPAC meeting, they will come. This boycotting you are talking about, I know they didn't show up in the last two IPAC meetings, but the EC has not received any official communication from them to that effect. So we still see them as very integral. They are part of the system we are running.
But this proposal about equitable voting, looking at the minority parties, they say do not have representation in parliament. Some of them are not properly registered. They don't have offices in two-thirds constituency, etc. Is it not a reasonable proposal from the NDC that focus on those who matter?
Francisca, you know, apart from this work I do, in my former life, I was teaching, and I was teaching about democracy. Science. One of the beauties of democracy is that everybody must be given a hearing. No, when you are talking about parliament, the parties are not in parliament. But IPAC is an advisory group. The EC engages them to be able to look at issues. And to be frank with you, the smaller parties have been very, very productive. Some of the ideas from them have enhanced the work we are doing. This principle the NDC is talking about of weighted voting, if you are a party, maybe MPP 10 votes, NDC 10 votes, smaller parties, I don't think this is something that can take place at IPAC. And you know the smaller parties, during these elections, you know, the parties get refunds. When the presidential election, if you get 25% or more, you will be giving back your money.
I see.
Presidential election, so MPP will get the 100,000 they paid. NDC will also get, the NDC, I know they have even come for their money. In the parliamentary election, if you get 12.5%, you get your money back. NDC came for its money. I believe the MPP, if they have not come for it, they also applied. The smaller parties, because most of them, or let me say quite a significant number of them did not get presidential, none of them got, their money will go to the consolidated fund. So they see themselves as integral part of the process. And we, the EC, we are the referee. We are supposed to advance the cause of the country's democracy. Are we the ones to say these parties are major, they should be giving major votes, and these parties are minor, they should be giving minor? And in any case, I think recently you heard one of our senior directors making the point that if the EC was to apply the rules to the letter, about 97% of the parties cannot stand. I think he was even more magnanimous or charitable It should have said 100% will not be able to stand. So clearly, and this is a country that is developing. So we need to make sure that we bring others on board. And we have also made it clear that this year the Commission will put measures in place so that the parties that are not meeting some of the key requirements will come down hard on them. But IPAC is advisory, so the EC cannot be the one legislating or decreeing that maybe some parties should have their...
This is a claim coming from ASEPA, a civil society group called Alliance for Security, Equity and Public Accountability. They are challenging the 703 million figure thereabouts put out by the EC as the entire cost for these elections. Their basis is that it costs more for the BVDs and the BVR, and those costs have not been incorporated into the overall.
I think let me put this on record. ASEPA as an organization, they've never gotten it right whenever they are dealing with the EC. We've noticed they've always been coming out with statements on the EC, but each point, when you look at what they bring out, they don't get it right. And let me put it in perspective. The EC's budget, we have what we call management and administration. Okay. The EC's budget, we have two components, management and administration. Then we have electoral services. The management and administration is for the day-to-day running of the commission. And the electoral services is specifically for the elections. So when the EC procures an item, that item can be used for maybe 10 years or 5 years. So let's say the EC has bought an equipment, a registration equipment. That equipment can be used for, let's say, 10 elections. So if you bought the equipment at, let's say, 10,000 Ghana cedis, and you use it for elections in 2020, does it mean you have spent 10,000 on that elections? You haven't spent 10,000 because that same equipment will be used for next year's elections. It will be used for 2020. Ms. Force, if you rent a house for 1 year for 10,000 and you stay in the house for 1 month, have you spent 10,000 in 1 month? And I think this is something very basic which I expect ASEPA, which claims to be a CSO, to be able to understand. And what the Commission is saying, very, very simple. Some of the items, when you look at the budget he was talking about, the salaries of EC staff, what we got throughout 2020, inclusive. The maintenance of our offices, all of them are inclusive. And when you look at the figure we put out, the money we spent on the elections was 766 million Ghana cedis, which in dollar term you are looking at almost 134 million USD. Okay. And when you look at that amount, a chunk of the money, almost about 40%, we use that for operatives, the people who assisted us during the registration, exhibition, and the elections. The others were the printing of the ballot papers and other items which was used for the elections. So I know ASEPA, if they want some further and better particulars on how the monies were spent, they can write to the Commission officially. But we think that it's unacceptable to mislead the general public when clearly the EC is a public institution if you want to know how much was spent. And the EC has put that information out if you want to challenge it. And I believe if the information we put out there was not right, it wasn't ASEPA that will come. There may be several CSOs and media organizations that will come after the EC. Okay, so let's talk about the cost saving or the reduction in the cost from looking at per voter. IPAC says from $13 to $7.7. CODEO had proposed, what, $5.5. Is that feasible? Is that a figure that going forward the EC can work with? I think, let me say this. If the EC had its way, it will want to do the elections at maybe $1 or $3 per voter. I don't know on what basis CODEO is coming up with this figure, but we need to be very careful we don't compare oranges with apples. Because, you know, the system we are operating in Ghana, we have one of the robust, one of the well-equipped electoral systems around the world, not only in Africa. So the kind of equipment we use in our country, there are many countries when you go there, they don't have. So you don't want a situation whereby you are going to compare, let's say, a country like Liberia, who don't have a biometric register. So if Liberia does it at, let's say, $5, then you come and say Ghana must also do it at $5. You go to, let's say, a country like UK, probably they may not be verifying voters. And when they do it at, let's say, £3 or £2 or $5, then you say, oh, if UK has done it this way, Ghana should be able to do that. When you look at what we are doing in Ghana, it's always better to look at a country that is doing almost the same thing Ghana is doing. But the $7.70 per voter we thought we did quite a lot. Because in 2016, the same commission did it at $13 per voter. And in this $7.70 per voter, we did it in a pandemic. Where the pandemic alone, we need to look at the numbers very well, but I believe the pandemic alone would take about $2 or another $1.50 per voter. So it's the thinking of the commission that as we move on as a country in 2024, 2023, where we anticipate there will be no pandemic, it's our expectation that this cost will further.
Yes, welcome back. So in the studio with me is Alhaji Haruna Rashid Ibrahim, the Director of Research for the NDC. So you've just heard Dr. Bossman of the Electoral Commission. Do you find his responses to the proposals that came from the NDC and also the supposition that they rather saved money in these elections, do you find these responses satisfactory?
No, I do not. Let me start with one that is, very easy to get by, and that is the numbers. Okay, he talks about 760 million cedis that was budgeted for the elections. That's correct, and I have a copy of the budget right here in front of me. I have the same number, but what is missing from that is two things. First, the cost that they have for the for getting their data center, okay, which is like 74 million cedis, $74 million, okay, and then $24 million for the BVDs. These are all items that they left off, and that is why they are coming up with that $7.70 savings from $13 in 2016. So when you add those costs to it, the 523 million cedis that they claim to have saved, it's not there. In fact, when you do the math, the total comes to about 1.3 billion cedis. Okay, 1.3 billion cedis, which really tells you that you have more in the neighborhood of about 77 cedis per person, as opposed to what they claim to have saved. That's one thing. Now, secondly, when you go to look at the proposals
so that means they would have, per your calculations, they would have spent more per head.
Of course they did, yes,
more
because
than what they're putting
they underestimated by leaving off the $74.6 million that they gave to Persol Solutions. Okay, I think that's the name of the company.
Why would they do that?
To make them look good. As simple as that. To make themselves look good, like they've saved us some money when they haven't. This was done on 18th of January 2020. The Director of Operations, Mr. Samuel Tete, announced that they have given $74.6 million contract has been awarded to Persol Systems. And this is the data system, the backbone of all the work that they talk about, the robust technology, the backups, and all those things. You cannot conduct an election, that is data intensive without that kind of backup system. And then $24 million on BVDs. Okay. So how do you, talk about an all-inclusive cost by taking off $98.4 million in your cost? So when you add that to the $760 million, which I agree with, and I have a copy of the budget here. Okay, I have a copy of the budget. The 760 million cedis, that is there. But you have to add to that the data systems and the cost of the BVDs. And that will give you the total cost, which comes to about 1.3 billion cedis.
Okay. So you are following the numbers to arrive at this?
Yes, I am.
The question I want to ask is, during the IPAC meeting, or the 2 days IPAC meeting, to be fair to the EC, they looked at the positives and they listed a few things. They also looked at the challenges. So it wasn't entirely, a praise-singing event. So that would be fair. They looked at rejected ballots. They looked at having minors and foreigners in the register. So that would be an admission of some negatives in terms of their work done.
Well, yeah, that is true. The only thing is that when you drill down and you look deeply at what they claim to be successes, you find that it leaves a lot of things wanting. Let me give you an example. They talk about, in less than 6 months, they talk about the absence of long queues at polling stations. And they compare it to the United States and UK and all of that. But, I mean, without a doubt, where I live in East Legon and also in Ashali-Botre, as a national executive, one of my duties on that day was to go around from constituency to constituency to check to make sure how things are going. And I have one of those badges that allows me to go to all, areas. And I can tell you that there were long queues even after 5 p.m. So that claim that there were no long queues is not true. Okay, that's one thing.
May I make an intervention?
Sure.
This is the case where they added about 10,000 polling stations. And there were places, averagely, and comparing the 2020 elections to maybe 2016 or 2012 elections before, it would be fair to say that the 10,000 plus that were added, the polling stations, would have eased the pressure that would typically be at polling stations. Because in some polling stations, voting ended even before 3 p.m.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the case in some places, but not in all places. You cannot look at one place and say that they ended at, say, 2 or 3 o'clock, so therefore everywhere is going to be that way. Because in some of those places, the systems, the actual voting systems were not set up at 7 a.m. as they were supposed to. They came in late. We know some EC officials got lost in getting to the polling stations where they were supposed to, and then when they got there, some of their equipment did not work as expected. Okay, and also in the middle of working, some of the systems went offline. There have been so many different cases of that. Okay, but going back to the 10,000 polling stations that were added that you were talking about, you'd have thought, and I thought it was a good idea that they had to add more polling stations and also to limit the number of, in each polling station to about, I believe it was anything over 400. They made it into like St. Francis A and St. Francis B to shorten the systems, okay? Now, but what you find is that has been, because not all the systems were working at the same time, at the right times, and some of them actually, broke down in the middle, things, really did not work out the way they were supposed to be. And then the other thing is that if you look at the turnout, meaning that the number of people, the number of registered voters who turn out to vote, there was a 10% increase from 2016 to 2020, okay? From 69% to 79%. So whatever the 10,000 number polling stations has been more than made up by the number of people that turned out to vote. And don't forget also, we had an increased number of registered voters. In 2020, we have 17,029,000. Okay, whereas in 2016 it was more like 15.8 million. So I mean, even though they had more polling stations, the number was much higher. And not only was it much higher, but you had more people participating because to them they had an issue that they wanted to come out and vote for. Okay.
And that is significant.
It is quite significant, yes. And the use of technology that they talk about as a success. Yes, use of technology to, a hashtag, it's nothing new. This is something that has been there all the time. And let's not forget, there are areas in Ghana today that do not have signals. And not all of our parents and grandparents in the villages have even yam phones, not to talk about smartphones that they can use. So to count that as a success is really kind of, stretching the truth, okay? And then the other thing is that, yes, one good thing is that the government of Ghana fully funded the elections. But you can look back and say that, yes, we funded elections because due to the work of, John Dramani Mahama and the NDC and all the previous, governments, we've been able to come to a middle income status. And with a middle income status, you don't have the kind of systems where you have people.
So that credit should go to the NDC.
Well, I mean, it could go to the NDC, but my point is that they cannot claim that as something that the EC did, and therefore they should, we should pat them on the back for. That's the point that I'm making. Okay, but you see, the other thing also is that they talk about. I think we've talked about the savings of the 90 million. That did not make sense to me. But there were issues. Okay, there were issues.
Ballots.
Rejected ballots. If you look at the funny thing about the rejected ballots is this. In 2012, it was 2.24%. Okay, that the ballots, meaning of the people that went to vote, 2% did not, there were some questions as to what their intent was. So the ballots were rejected. In other words, their thumbs may have been between too or too much on one side than on the other side.
More of errors or not properly understanding how to do it than intent.
That you would think that was errors or intent, but you see, one of the reasons for the 2020, even though, in IPAC moving into the 2020, they took the time and gave more space between two candidates.
Yes.
The problem was something, for me, the incompetence of the EC, officials, because they did not use the prescribed ink that they were supposed to. They used the ordinary ink that you get anywhere from any stationery store, but that is not a proper ink to use. So that type of ink is a little more watery. So when you use that type of ink, okay, when you use that type of ink and then you fold the paper, okay, it comes through and then spoils the ballots. This is something that they should have done.
So that if you thumbprinted this way, and then you folded this side will get blotted with the ink
exactly,
as well.
because it's watery and it's not the standard, international standard ink that they were using. That's one of the problems.
Okay.
And that is the reason why that all of a sudden we have
But will that be an assumption, or you have
No, that's
audited?
reality, yes.
Okay.
No, that's reality. These are things that we have seen.
Okay.
Believe you me, when I come here as the director of research and I say things, I'm not just saying things out of the top of my head. These are things
This is what the team has sat down to work on.
Not only sat down, but we've had it reported from different areas.
Okay.
And that is the reason why you have it going up from 170,000 in 2016 to 315,000 in 2020. But you know what the interesting thing is? And it's inconclusive at this point, but we find it very curious that most of these, the highest areas with the highest rejected ballots happen to be in NDC strongholds. I'm talking about...
So you smell a rat, essentially.
A very big stinking rat. There's something going on. We are looking into it. There's something going on. It just does not make sense.
What do you suspect could have gone on?
What I suspect is, you see, the decision to make something a rejected ballot comes you see the combination of using the irregular ink, okay, and also the complicity of EC officials in certain strongholds of, the opposition party NDC.
Can we say alleged complicity?
Alleged complicity, yes, you can say that. Because we don't have, the conclusive evidence, but we find it very curious that the highest, numbers, percentages all happen to be in the NDC strongholds.
You don't think that in trying to save costs, they might have spent less and maybe not have obtained quality ink, etc.?
Well, I've made that point already.
Okay.
That's part of it. But also we think there's some active involvement of EC officials in making sure that, ballots in NDC strongholds are rejected.
Okay, I want us to wrap up on the post-IPAC outcomes, but quickly look at the issue of the voters register, minors and foreigners. On that score, the EC admits that it's a challenge, but they point the fingers to the two dominant parties, the NDC and the MPP.
Yes.
You guys have a lot of vested interest in it.
Well,
they say you are responsible for that.
It may be true that we may be responsible, and it's alleged.
It's alleged.
But here's the thing: you cannot do this without the complicity of EC officials. At the end of the day, if I were to bring a minor or a foreigner, I cannot just take the minor or the foreigner to walk through. I have to have an EC official do the official checking of the documents and all those things.
So in a way,
Madam Jean Mensah is indicting her own people. So what we call, in fact, one of our recommendations is for her to train competent EC officials so that they can do their work better.
Okay.
And that's the thing that, but you see, just before we move off the EC, the key thing for me.
No, we are staying on the EC, but so on the reforms, the counter reforms that the NDC proposed, that's what I want us to talk about now.
Okay.
Yes, so it doesn't appear that any of your proposals, you had, one of your major proposals was for there to be an equitable voting mechanism where the dominant parties or the parties with representation in Parliament would have more say when you go for IPAC. But the EC,
equitable.
Exactly, equitable. But equitable meaning that the NDC and MPP would have more votes.
Because we have more at stake. And you see, don't get me wrong, when we talk about small parties, we're not talking about the PNCs and the CPPs and the GUMs and others.
Who are you talking about?
We're talking about ones that, if I were to call a name to you now, you wouldn't. Do you know of a party called the Love Party?
No.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the LMP? Have you ever heard of the PUP? I mean, these are parties that we believe. We believe Jean Mensah and Bosman Asari just go around and then, somehow just passes them through without even verifying that they have the requisites, representations in the regions as required by law, just so that they can fill up the space. And then when the time comes, for those of us with stakes in the election, then it turns out that Love Party, PUP, or LMP have the same level of...
But the CPP and co were displeased with the position of the NDC on equitable voting.
That was because when we talked about the small parties, it came across as including them in it. And that is the reason why I made sure that the PNC, the CPP, the PPP, the GUM, and other parties are not the ones that we're talking about. We're talking about the Love Party and some other parties that nobody has ever heard of.
Okay, so you've made that clarification. But moving forward, it doesn't appear that the EC is going to be taking on board the proposed electoral reforms that came from the NDC. You for instance, didn't want voting to close at 3 p.m., They insist that that should be the case. What's going to happen? And you also, does that mean that you're not going to go for IPAC any longer because you've already missed the last two and the EC says you didn't inform them?
Well, as I mentioned before, NDC's position, the official position is that this is a temporary boycott, okay? And
for how long?
Well, it depends on the attitudinal change that we find in Bosman Asare and Jean Mensa.
Why those particular
Because
two?
For one thing, Bosman Asare is the one who publicly stated that NDC is an existential threat to Ghana's democracy. This is also a person that we know to be, from his school days in the University of Ghana, as a patron of TESCON. That means he's a member of the MPP.
Okay,
so
what about Jean?
This is, well, Jean Mensa, in her attitudes, you see, before NDC has a very serious stakeholder, as a serious stakeholder in the 7 elections that we've participated in, from Afari Johns to, Madame Charlotte Osei, and in fact, even some parts of Jean Mensa's time. And the whole time, it has been consultative. It's been, you talk and then you build consensus.
So at what point did all of that come to a halt?
From the point where our General Secretary, for instance, I'm talking to you and I'm smiling
That's
at
Mr. Asiedu Nketia.
Mr. Asiedu Nketia, smiling at you, and then Jean Mensa comes up, what are you laughing at? It's about in the way that she approaches things, and then all of a sudden, the consultative and the consensus building has been thrown out the window, and it is more than information sharing.
It's about an interaction that somebody smiled, and
not only
Ghanaians will find that petty.
No, it's not petty. It's not petty. But if it's only that, then you can say that. But when you don't give the proper notice, the 24 to 48 hour notice, but just about every meeting that you attend is on emergency basis.
Impromptu, okay.
Impromptu.
But you also responded in like form because you didn't inform the EC that you were not going to be at the IPAC, the last two.
This is in reaction to what they have been doing. We've had this dialogue, and if you recall, Madame Jean Mensa, together with Bosman Asare, actually even visited His Excellency John Dramani Mahama's office to kind of, make things work. And we've done everything. We've bent over backwards to make sure that things worked.
Okay.
But until there's that attitudinal change.
So what would it take for the NDC to return to IPAC meetings?
Like I said, it's about the change in attitude and making sure that the same process, the two personalities, and also to make sure that the way that we've been doing things, the consultations, the consensus building, that is the way to go. It's not about voting and, stacking the deck with, so-called parties, Love Party, PUP, LMP, that nobody has heard of.
But Alhaji, you know that this is always the case when one party is in opposition. There's always a mistrust of the Electoral Commission because of the mode of appointment. It's appointed by the president of the
yes, it's always been the case, okay? But we've always found a way to work it through. Recall, many of the changes that we're currently going through were proposed by NPP. Moving from the opaque ballot box to a transparent ballot box, the pictures, the color pictures and all those things.
By the NDC?
By the MPP.
By the MPP.
By the MPP. Many of the changes, were proposed by the MPP. When
the
we
NDC
were,
as well.
Yeah, well,
during
yes,
the era of
like
Rawlings,
exactly. A lot of it is consultative.
So that for both, so for both parties, as you're saying, you've always found a way
to make things work.
Exactly. Are you confident that's going to happen? So that we move on to the next topic.
We look forward to. We want. Look, we have a very big, stake in making things work.
Okay.
We've participated in 11 elections. We're not going to stop. We're not going to boycott any elections or anything like that. We just need to send a message to.
But you're
Bossman
boycotting
Asare.
IPAC meeting.
Well, to send them a message that they cannot walk all over us.
Okay.
When we have 137 members of parliament, and versus 137 in parliament, you can't just, tell us you do this. No.
Okay, I've got some messages. I want to read some messages from our audience joining us. This person says, so this is Chaka Derricks from Dome Kwabenya. He says, good afternoon, madam. I'm enjoying your program. Honestly, I must say, okay, oops, I think I missed it. Yeah. Good afternoon, madam. I'm enjoying your program. Honestly, I must say I like your sense of questions, but I think Mr. Rashid Ibrahim is not prepared for the program. I'm very disappointed in his answers. Okay, that's your opinion.
Okay.
Francis from Ho says, ask your guest about those rejected ballots that had Nanado cut off in order for Mahama to become #1. It's also due to the incompetence of Jean Mensa. This person didn't add a name, but says, could you ask your guest what occasioned the EC to refer to the NDC as a threat to democracy? And I have a very long one. I'll see if I can read it all. Good afternoon. I'm enjoying your program. From last year, December, the president, EC boss, ministers and MPs have all received their salaries and allowances due them. But the poor temporary electoral officer who worked tirelessly around the clock to ensure that there is free and fair elections have not been paid their meager stipends as of now. I think this came up in the interview, in my interview
with you,
and he said that they were going to make some payments. Dr. Postman said that they were going to make some payments, I think June.
They have not as yet. I mean, just think about it. You hold the elections December 7th, and then you're talking about doing it in June. In the meantime, you've claimed that you've saved Ghana this amount of money when
but
you
June
have not
hasn't
even paid
ended.
it.
So shouldn't we give them time? Or you think the payment should have happened long ago?
Exactly. Do you wait for 6 months before you get paid when you work?
No.
No. How do the poor temporary staff, live? And how do you claim to have saved the country some money when you haven't taken into account all your expenses? That is the point.
Was anything impressive about the EC's performance of the 2020 elections? I think you've talked about the fully funding or the 100% funding by the government, but even that you didn't think that was so impressive. But was there anything at all?
Well, there were some things. I'll be honest with you. There were some things, some innovations in terms of giving information. Okay, the breakdown of the electorates.
Okay.
And the graphs that they produced. So there were some successes.
Okay.
I'm not going to sit here and say that they did not do anything right. I think they did some things right, but it's just that I think they claimed it to be the most successful elections. How can you claim it to be the most successful elections when 8 people lost their lives for the very first time ever? How can you claim it to be the most successful elections when on TV, your own numbers, by your own admission, you made mistakes, you corrected them, they turn out to be mistakes again and again and again.
Okay.
And then you refused to stand up in front of the people to correct,
This was
in
during
a
the
court of
election
law.
petition.
Yeah, in a court of law, you refuse to do that. How can you, if you are sure what you did is the right thing, is the most successful, then be bold,
I have to stop here because we have other topics to discuss.
Yes.
Otherwise, we won't talk about those
Okay.
ones. So
Right.
let's hold it here. I want us to take a break. When we come back, we're going to be looking at this historical ruling where a high court has ordered Achimota School to admit 2 students who have Rasta hairdo. We'll be back after this break.
Need a little help?
Nobody does it better. At UCS Facility Management, we give you the best in janitorial services, which include high-rise window cleaning, office cleaning, post-construction cleaning, facade washing, deep cleaning, carpet cleaning, swimming pool cleaning, and event janitorial services. Locate us at Jowolu, JA Plant Pool premises, or call us on 0501 666 322 or 0203 299 212 or 0203 299 234. UCS, your property is under our care.
High Sense Fridge promo. 58th May. I got him 8th June. High Sense Fridge promo. For High Sense showroom yeah. This one mama say. Fridge that be how. And now we here fridge for fro. And my opportunity way and sound hot that. High Sense Fridge na F4. Chair. Papa and chip power. On the low. High Sense pet and the mouth 5 years manufacturer defect warranty. So High Sense Fridge papa. Never crow niyama. Kai say 58th May. I got him 8th June. High Sense Fridge promo. High Sense. Everyday prices for everyday people.
Okay, welcome back. And as you can see, I'm beaming with smiles. And Alhaji is also Alhaji is such an interesting man to interview, and I'm having fun myself. Some of our audience also alluded to that. Alhaji, let's now talk about, briefly, let's talk about this historical ruling.
Yes.
2 students with dreadlocks tried to go to or get admission to at Achimota School. They were turned away. They took the matter to court, and the court has ruled that on the basis of religion, we understand, in expressing their religion, they should be able to go to school and still do that. Achimota has indicated that they will appeal. First of all, what do you think about all of this going on? Why should somebody's hair come in the way of their education?
First and foremost, I think we should commend the parents of Ohineba Krabia and Tyrone Magai and the kids themselves, because in this day and age with all the distractions and everything, they've stayed focused and they've been able to perform well enough to be accepted to Achimota School. So commendations go to the families and the boys. And then commendations also go to Justice Gifty Ajay for having the courage to go by the book, because this is not something that she's pulling out of the air. This is a constitutional provision that says that we are guaranteed the freedom of association and the freedom of religion. So that is respected. In fact, I would have been shocked, and I think most people would have been shocked, if she had decided otherwise.
Really?
Yes.
Because people will find that we live in a conservative society.
Yes.
We are not very open to people who don't appear the way society says. I see that you're looking at my hair. The way society... the way society says they should appear. And indeed, I've had my experiences, but that's the thing.
Yeah, but you see, bottom line is, let's put aside people's perceptions and stick by the book. Okay? When you go by the book, it says that we have to, respect, actually, the religious rights are guaranteed. And we know in Ghana, Muslims, Christians, traditionalists, and Rastafarianism is recognized as a religion. Yeah. So why would you not allow the student
wouldn't that be the status quo? Because this is not the only case that is trending. A Muslim student tried to do her fasting during the Ramadan month and was prevented. So this should go to say that in a lot of these schools, the other religions may not be given 100% room to operate or to express their religion.
Correct. It's not correct, because you are being funded by Ghanaian taxpayers. My tax cities and your tax cities are funding these schools. And not only that, if you look at whatever the governing rules and indications that they have of the schools, the Constitution, the Ghanaian Constitution trumps all those things.
Doc, Alaji, the same Constitution, I think Article 14, which was their arguing point, says that if you're going to put a child in school, they must subject themselves to the rules there. So
yeah, but
those... You must obey their rules.
Yeah, you obey the rules, but those rules, it does not trump, it does not abrogate the freedom of religion. It does not. In fact, this same Achimota allows other students who happen to be foreigners, white students, keep long hairs that are not cut. And there have been records of other students who have had dreadlocks at Achimota.
What do you say to those who say that this ruling may open the floodgates? Exactly.
No, it's not. It's not, because each case should be looked at on case-by-case basis. Okay, and interestingly, Achimota, as opposed to Wesley Girls, allows their Muslim students to observe their fasting. So how do you, allow a certain groups, the Muslims, to practice their religion and then stop the Rastafarians from practicing their religion? And by the way, how does the way I look, my hair, how does that have anything to do with the content of my character?
Welcome to Ghana.
It just does not make sense.
It's a whole lot of prejudice and stereotypes that have been created, and people believe in them.
That's the thing. We need to get over those things.
Alaji, let me have your concluding remarks so that we talk about this Ken Ofori-Atta data bank. I
just think that I find it very unfortunate that the governing board of Achimota unilaterally, the board chairman has decided to appeal this case. And I heard read statements by the Minister of Finance, Minister of Education. Dr. Duchum, that he was going to talk to them for them to find out why would they do something like that without even talking to him. So that tells you that this is, again, some prejudice by some people. We don't need that.
Let's talk about Data Bank, Black Star Brokerage, Ken Ofori-Atta, Bernard Dubois-Hin, and GOG loans.
Yes.
What's happening there? What do you know is happening there? What's the concern?
The concern are two things. Okay, it's a conflict of interest. Okay, with the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, being a part owner or shareholder of Data Bank, and Data Bank is, a transaction advisors, and they are also known as, special bank bond specialists.
Bond market specialists.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with this other company, Black Star Brokerage, owned by Charles Dubois-Hin.
But they have, in a statement, a recent statement, indicated that they have long resigned from their positions. We understand that Mr. Dubois-Hin, this is a statement that's coming from the Finance Ministry, that Mr. Dubois-Hin resigned from the board and management of Black Star Brokerage in 2017, and this was soon after his nomination as a deputy minister. And we are informed by this statement that he also transferred his shares to some family on trust. Ken Ofori-Atta is also reported in this statement to have resigned as executive chair of Data Bank in 2012 and resigned from all Data Bank boards in February 2014.
Well, it's not me whatever they tell you that they have done, I'm looking at right here in front of me. This is Bank of Ghana. Okay. This is Bank of Ghana, where they list the different companies that, you know, contested to, you know, be transaction advisors.
So this is a list. So licensed primary dealers, that is PDs, and bond market specialists. That's the BMS.
Right.
Okay.
The top list are the ones that contested for it. Okay. And you can see the green line showing both DataBank and...
At number 15 and 17, DataBank Brokerage and Black Star Brokerage Limited.
And then when you go down the list, it tells you, when you read at the top, it tells you these are the ones that were selected.
Those at the bottom were selected.
They were selected.
So we
and
have...
Who do you see there?
So we see... I see a number. I see Stanbic Bank.
Yes, as the international...
As the international banks. Okay. Okay, so the international, the local, and then the investment advisory firms.
Which do you see as the...
We see Black Star Brokerage, we see IC Securities, and DataBank Brokerage.
The issue here is this, okay? Minister of Finance Ken Ofori-Atta, as the Minister of Finance, okay, he has shareholdings in DataBank. And not only does he have shareholdings in DataBank, but also as a supervising minister, okay, for Bank of Ghana. He has his people, his cronies, if you want to call it, on the Bank of Ghana, board of Bank of Ghana. Okay. And Edu Boahen is on SEC. Okay. And these are guys who arrange the loans and the borrowings. And guess what? Each arrangement that they do as transaction advisors, they get 0.35% of the loan. So right now, when you look at it, we're looking at 254 billion that they have arranged.
Quick one. So this is from the Finance Ministry statement in response to this arrangement that you're alleging. They say that it's an automatic process that is based on historical performance. So if your investment company is performing or is doing well, automatically you're selected.
Okay, so are they leading us to believe that all these other companies, just by chance, that only two companies that happen to be guys that are yummy with him are the only ones that, you know, pass that?
Okay.
But you see, the other thing that you have to look at is this. They have control. They review what happens, you know, in deciding the borrowings, and also at the SEC, and the fees that they get. So far, when we look at the numbers, there's about $887 million cities that these guys have
I'm
done.
going to have to invite you on Inside Pages one of these days. We have to continue
I'll be happy
this
to
conversation.
do that.
But I'm very grateful to you. That's Alhaji Haruna Rashid Ibrahim. He's the Director of Research for the Opposition National Democratic Congress. We're grateful to you. This has been Good Afternoon Ghana with me, Francisca Kakra Forson. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.